All right. And I want to start with a couple of things. One is this program has come about here in what we're calling the Claresholm cohort, but please understand that's a region, that's just kind of our starting point. But definitely all of the communities, just like Wainwright program isn't just about Wainwright, it's all of the surrounding communities, but it's because of our relationship with Tracy. She actually teaches in our program and has taught a theory classes and came highly recommended to us. And it's through relationship that we were able to kind of dream about having a program here. And then also we've met with Eliane, we've met with Sharon, we've met with Lauren Spitsky and different people from your different communities, site managers and acute care managers and such to really dream about what this program is going to look like. So each of our programs is adapted to the community. So it's also a bit of dreaming. So it's not like we have everything is set. There is an element of what do you want to bring to this program and how do we work with you? As you are aware, we have a recruitment and retainment issue in our rural communities for registered nurses. And when students leave their community to go away, even if it's just, Claresholm to move to the city or Pincher Creek, as my husband did, he left the city to go away to medical school and he met a city girl and he never went back. And so this is my penance is I stole a future physician from Pincher Creek. So, when you go away to school, you lose that sense of connection to community. You start building a life somewhere else, and you may or may not come back. And we want to find ways for, instead of always recruiting out, but for people who are from a community to actually stay in and be trained as registered nurses. And hopefully the plan is that they would stay there. So before I get going, I do want to acknowledge the land that we're gathered on. What's wonderful is we are all situated on Treaty 7 territory. Often in our program, we're teaching students who are in Treaty 6 and sometimes even in Treaty 8, but we're here on Treaty 7 territory. And Calgary, otherwise known as Mohkinstsis, which is the Blackfoot word for Calgary, is situated on Treaty 7 territory. So it's the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Siksika, the Kainai, and the Piikani First Nation, the Tsuut'ina, who are the Dene from the north, and also the Yithka Nakota, which includes the Chiniki, Bears Paw, and Goodstoney First Nation. And Calgary here is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta Districts 5 and 6. And at the university, we take very seriously our responsibilities to truth and reconciliation, to make sure our healthcare system is safe for Indigenous peoples. Sometimes people say, well, why do you guys focus so much on Indigenous people? Like, why is that your focus? And one is because we have a responsibility, our treaty responsibility, but also if Indigenous people are safe, everybody's safe. And so we take very seriously that commitment. All right, so let me share a little bit about our program. So as I said, we have a nursing recruitment and retainment challenge. We had a manager who for about 10 years in the Wainwright area, her name is Jamie Malone. She's there in the picture with the light colored shirt. She was building community support for a program. She desperately wanted to, why can't we just educate our nursing students in our community instead of sending them off? And why are we continuing to try to recruit from outside? We only have so many nurses who can marry farmers and move into the community, or they may come for a little bit of time, but they don't feel that sense of connection to community, and so they leave. Or as we hear in the hospitals in your area, city nurses go, wow, I can get a job out in Claresholm. I can get a job in High River. I can get a job at oil fields. And if I go to High River, I can be trained as an emerge nurse. I can be trained as a labor and delivery nurse. I can be trained acute. I get super confident, super competent. And then I go, oh, I don't want to drive so far. I'm going to go back to the city. And so the thinking is if we can train people from the community who come with that knowledge of the community, who have that sense of connection, they'll stay. So Jamie Malone, for 10 years, built up that sense of, excitement within the community. She reached out to post-secondary institutions and nobody said yes. It was very, very difficult to find somebody to say yes. But we had a leader at the time, Sandra Davidson. She's in the orange coat there. She is from near Tabor, originally and trained in Lethbridge. And she is a very innovative leader. And she said, yeah, I think we can do that. She was open to the idea, but we had a barrier, and that was our kinesiology department at the University of Calgary did not believe you could teach anatomy and physiology online. And so we couldn't do it. But then this thing called a global pandemic hit, and suddenly overnight, everybody figured out they could teach online. And so that actually moved us forward. So we have one thing at least that was a benefit from the pandemic. So we created a program where theory courses are taught online. And when possible, we even have master's prepared nurses who have rural experience, such as Tracy Mitchell, who has taught some of our lectures. So these classes are available online for the rural and Indigenous community route, but we want to have in-person training. We know that students, there's certain things you cannot learn online, and certain things that are taught better in groups. And we want students to still have that experience where they are that hands-on learning and they're able to do their practicums in their communities. So Wainwright raised a bunch of money, their health foundation and their surrounding communities, to create a lab, as you can see there, and a classroom. And that was all paid for by the community. And this was actually a pilot project without even extra government funding. But they launched the program, and that cohort of students are about to cross the stage. They have finished their coursework, they've finished their final practicums, and they are convocating on Tuesday. So we're very excited about that. And since then, we've actually expanded our program quite a bit, and I will be able to share about that in a bit. But that's basically our program here. So just an overview of kind of when we got started. You can see that's the first cohort of students and their classroom. So the town, I'm putting these little things in your mind to, how might a town or how might a health foundation partner? Well, the health foundation created a classroom for the students to gather so they could do some of their theory work and also and learn together, because we believe that if we foster a sense of collective belonging, both as a group, but also with the connection to the community themselves, then students are way more likely to stay. And so this is our first cohort of students. What we love about this is we have 18-year-olds who just graduated from high school who started, and we have people in their 40s. One woman even has 8 children, and her daughter is in the program as well a year after her. So we get a lot of different people from different backgrounds, but they all have connection to their community. In Wainwright, and now we have a Drayton Valley, we have a model there. It's in partnership with Alberta Health Services. We started with a 4-year program, and that was our current Bachelor of Nursing program, but we're now bringing a Bachelor of Science nursing program, and we're about to start our 2nd year, and that's the program students in your program will have. But I wanted to just give you a little bit of the history as to how we got started. So who was eligible? Students within 120 to 130 kilometers, and we did cohorts of 8 or 9. We learned so many lessons on those Wainwright groups and Wainwright students that we're now able to apply to our program now, but that was where we started. So we now have launched different programs. We have one in Wainwright. We have one at Siksika First Nation in partnership with Old Sun Community College. We've had a program in Cold Lake. That is now, we're retiring that program and starting one in Bonnyville, which is close by. We've had a program in St. Paul. Those students are about to graduate. Drayton Valley, we're just about to go into our 2nd year. We're launching a program in Bonnyville, which is up in the Cold Lake, St. Paul area in partnership with Covenant Health. And then we have 3 programs that we're launching in fall 2026, and the Claresholm cohort is one of those. And it's a little bit different, and so I'll share with you a little bit about that now, but you can just see that we're expanding our program. So the Grow Your Own program here is a Bachelor of Science in Nursing program, and I will give you lots of details about that. But because you're close to the city, each Tsuut'ina First Nation, Drumheller, and Claresholm are all close to the city. We have the opportunity for students actually to do their theory online, but to come to the city, to the main campus to do their labs, and then their clinical, which would be in large groups or individual with their final practicum, will be at the health centers within your area. It kind of lowers the bar for our program, makes it much easier for us to launch versus in some of our communities like Wainwright and Drayton Valley, we've had to set up labs there for the students to learn. Here, because you're relatively close to the city, those students can come here. We, in conjunction with Tracy and her team, we have made a kind of a boundary that is going to be posted up on our website here soon. But we're looking at the Calgary zone and towards the Okotoks area out to like the Vulcan area. And obviously west as well. And that is not in the south zone, it's in the Calgary zone, but it's still that rural zone. So clinical, Diamond Valley, High River, Claresholm. We can even have some clinical out in Vulcan. We have usually done cohorts of 8 or 9 students, but for this group, we're going to do 12 students, and they will be split into 2 groups of clinical. So they go in groups of 6 for their clinical, and that fits a little bit better with your sites. But you can see it is a little bit different. So students will need to be able to drive to oil fields. They'll need to be able to drive to High River. They'll need to be in Claresholm, potentially out to Vulcan. And then we are right now between either of them coming in once a week for lab, but we're moving towards having them come in every 2 weeks for lab. So we're just in the process of designing that. One of the challenges is we're teaching out an old curriculum and we're teaching in a new curriculum. So our scheduling at the university is a little on the wild side. I wanted to show you a video. I'm going to make sure I share my sound so you can see a little bit about what students would get when they come on campus. So you can get a little bit of a sense of the main campus lab. So here's our Clinical Simulation Learning Center. And please tell me if you cannot hear this.
Today's complex healthcare environments demand that registered nurses quickly assess patient situations and make astute, sometimes split-second clinical care decisions. Welcome to the Clinical Simulation Learning Center in the Faculty of Nursing at the University of Calgary, where the use of simulation is a vital component of undergraduate nursing education. Simulation enriches the quality and breadth of learning from both a teaching and a learning standpoint. Within this center, our students learn on task trainers to master the psychomotor skills needed in practice. We continue to design bold, future-focused programming to fully utilize technology. Through simulated-based learning, students begin to think as the nurse they are preparing to become. They hone their clinical judgment and problem-solving skills without risking patient safety. For these experiences to be effective, our instructors design clinical encounters according to best practices. Not only do students apply psychomotor skills in scenarios, they also learn critical thinking and work on their communication abilities in order to establish therapeutic relationships with patients. Using high-fidelity simulation like Lucina, our birthing simulator, patient scenarios are created that mimic clinical events students may see in the real world. The Clinical Simulation Learning Center houses 32 basic patient care environments and also include 3 simulation suites, 3 control stations, and 3 debriefing rooms. All spaces are flexible and adaptable. A trained faculty member operates a simulator from the control room, controlling a mannequin's verbal responses as well as the timing and progression of the simulation event. These parameters change depending on the level of the student and the learning objectives. Believable makeup, props, people, and interactions are created in order to heighten the perception of reality for the learner. In a supportive environment, students learn to openly give and receive feedback, rethink actions, reactions, and decisions, as well as review their errors, all of which contribute to professional growth and development. The CSLC operates on the basic assumption, as defined by Boston Center for Medical Simulation, that everyone participating in activities at our center is intelligent, capable, cares about doing their best and wants to improve. Promoting optimal patient care and safety enables our graduates to effect meaningful change as innovators and leaders in healthcare.
Right. So a little bit about our program here. So it really gives students the benefit of, a main campus experience, but also within their community. I will just highlight also that we have Indigenous nursing programs. We have Indigenous nurses in all of our programs, but we do have some that are specific. And that's our Kanami program out in Old Sun, Sutina, which is going to be starting actually fall 2026 now, and then Bonnyville, which is this fall. So a little bit different. So we actually do design these programs to be in partnership. Alberta Health Services is an amazing partner. And so just so you have a sense of the commitment that they provide for us is they work with us to find clinical instructors. They help us to find appropriate clinical experiences. We work with the team to ensure that we are preparing nurses to practice in rural. Rural is a expert generalist. It is not the same as in the city. I'm an obstetrics nurse, and we genetically don't do emerge. Like those are two different kinds of nurses. But in rural, you have to be able to do everything. You have to be able to care for a palliative patient, potentially labor and delivery, and somebody who's in emerge all at the same time. So we want to make sure we're fostering that clinical judgment and everything. And so we work closely with Alberta Health Services, and we actually work with them on service agreements if we need to. So they actually provide us with their staff nurses, and we pay back Alberta Health Services, which is huge. We can't do that without an amazing support all the way up the leadership chain there. We also we ask communities, especially if we're going to be working with you, to advocate to the government for base funding. Each of our programs, as I told you at the beginning, is a pilot. It's no longer a pilot, but our funding only goes 2 to 3 years each time. And so we're always in trust, in faith, believing that the government's going to continue to fund this program. I'm not too worried about it. They seem very, very supportive and very happy with the Grow Your Own program. But if you have the ear of MLAs, just so you know, always put in a plug for base funding for our program. A trick is we are solving the problems of the Ministry of Health by a program that is funded by the Ministry of the post-secondary. So that's always a tricky thing. Our funding comes from one body, but we're solving the problem of another. We also look for community buy-in, and every community is a little different. We want the students to feel a sense of connection. We want them to be like, I can see myself working here forever. So we look for relationships to be built with site managers, with the Health Foundation. That might look at providing exam invigilators or recreation center access, even at a discounted rate. It could be developing student spaces in the health centers for students to gather to do their coursework together. Even though they're doing online education, there's something about coming together to do, to maybe watch their online courses together, a place for them to take their exams if that's needed, support celebrations and retainment. You can see pictures at the bottom here of the graduation, the recent graduation that was funded by the Wainwright and surrounding area. And it could even be community-sponsored scholarships and bursaries. As an institution, we cannot have a return of service requirement for any of our funding that goes to students, but towns can. So you can say, hey, we'll provide you with a scholarship, but you have to give us a year or 2 years working in our community at our health center or within the region. So, but there's lots of opportunities for us to dream through what that might look like to partner with the communities. A little bit about our program. It's a 3.25 to 3.5 year program. So it's not 4 years because there's fall, winter, spring. But students who already have post-secondary might be able to join in the second year, or they can join in the first year and just do a few courses. Our former program, or Bachelor of Nursing program, you either had to start in kind of from high school with nothing, or you had to have all of your coursework ready to start in year 2. And that meant there were students who were actually upgrading and upgrading and upgrading. And that's great if you have a lot of money, but and time, but a lot of students don't. This program allows students who are maybe a licensed practical nurse, so you have an LPN or somebody who has a different degree, maybe they only need a couple of the nursing courses. They can apply to the program, get in that year one, and actually work pretty much full time that first year, take the courses that they need, and then join the program in year two. Or if they're directly from high school, a direct entry, they can just do all of the courses that they require. The theory in that first year, everything is online available for the students. But you can see the courses that they have to take. There's a nursing identity and practice, anatomy and physiology, which they could take somewhere else. And many of our LPNs are able to just get that one waived because their courses they've taken count. Stats and Indigenous health course, academic writing, and then 5 options. Again, no clinicals or lab. An exciting thing in Drayton Valley, we have a number of, I think there's 3 LPNs who joined the program in the first year. One of them only needed a couple of courses, so she took a full-time line in the Drayton Valley Health Center. And the other one took a 0.6 or 0.7, so that benefited the community as well. And they were confident that they knew the next year. So starting this fall, they're going to be in the year 2 of the program, which is much more controlled. Like the first year is very flexible, the second year is not, and the third year. So then year 2, now we're into all of our nursing courses and kind of what you think of for a Bachelor of Science in Nursing course. There will be practical courses, so your practicums as a group, an acute care community, and a consolidated practice, and it goes fall, winter, spring. Then the next year they come back and they do fall, winter, spring. What's wonderful is we have mental health. So of course we know that's going to be in Claresholm because you've got that great opportunity. And we will work with AHS on like, where's the best place for them to do perinatal? Where's the best place for them to get peds? Since there may not be hospital acute care peds, but where might we pick that up? And maybe more community based. They'll have acute care, mental health, peds, and perinatal. And then they either do spring and summer that summer and finish off their final practicum, or, and this can be for a couple of reasons. One, a student needs a break, or they need more time to develop their skills. They can work that summer as an undergrad nurse or a uni, as we call them, really build up their confidence and then come back in the fall. And that one can be a little bit more, what's the word? Kind of personalized. Their final practicum is alone and not in a group. But all of their other clinicals are in a group, and we'd have them in about a group of 6 students. So a little bit about the program. All students need reliable transportation. As you can see, they're going to need to drive. Applications will open in October, and they run until March. And I've told a little bit about the program there, and there's more information for anybody who's interested. In the city, you may have heard that to get into nursing is very, very difficult. But we have now started a lottery. So instead of needing to have a 95% average to get into our program, you now need, I think it's an 82 or 83% average. And we have a lottery where we draw. There's many reasons, happy to chat about that. But in rural, the students apply with a letter that they write to us about why they're connected to their community, how they're connected to their community, why they want to be a rural nurse, and why this matters to them. And so for us, we weight that as well. And then we want to make sure the student is going to be successful in the program, but we don't, we're not looking for the high 90s. We may get students with the 90s, but often they're in the 80s from the community, and we're fine with that. We know that still makes for a great nurse. So high marks doesn't necessarily make a great nurse. Yeah, so happy to answer questions. I'm going to stop sharing and bring us back